In a world where insanity reigns supreme and safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, it's comforting to know an ancient, fat, long-haired, bearded reprobate has your mind in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, and despite every attempt by the SHR Media Network to revoke his shameless contract, we return to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Tomo, you magnificent bastard, I
Red your book!
I drink your
Milkshake.
How dare you?
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch!
Captain.
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 No, not yet. Not yet. Don't pass out on me yet. Of course you realize this means war.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I'm broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. Always spell it with a K, a mere 2 miles east of the locus of evil on the entire left coast, the Bill Mill, the belly of the beast, the Capitol building in downtown Sacramento at 10th and L Streets. And at the end of the show, when I exit the plush, resplendent, sumptuous, and palatial SHR Media studios, I'll be smelling the odoriferous stench of sulfur, brimstone, and evil emanating from downtown Sacramento. Be forewarned, what you're about to hear for the next 2 hours consists of my opinion and no one else's. Also, the Saloon is serving stiff drinks, facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, tradition, intent, and common sense. Out the front and back doors, depending on the fear porn quotient. Remember, very importantly, we don't water our drinks. Just like we don't water our conversation, politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the Saloon, where the speech is free, but the booze is not. This is 2021, and I am done with bipartisanship or compromise. And understand, I'm also done with the Republican Party. This is the new age of modern political warfare. Gaslighting, lies, massive hypocrisy, half-truths, threats, and all on the part of Democrats, leftists, anarchists, aided and embedded by their propaganda organs, the American media maggots. We are on an open war footing against you, they are saying. Welcome. The show was not on last Tuesday night, but as I've explained before, it's because I am in the process of attempting to get 3 properties ready for sale, because I am in fact going to be moving out of this state, and the coordination therein is all very, very important. Now, I have got a great guest on tonight, and he's been so kind as to indicate that he'll likely, quite possibly, be on for the entire 2 hours, which will be absolutely wonderful. Now, I meet some of the most interesting people for my show on the internet. I've said that a billion times, by accident, in emails, by way of social media, and sometimes recommended by those people that I know and I value. Now, such is the case tonight here. Lonnie Poindexter, a great personal friend who has been physically in the SHR Media studios with me any number of times, sent me an article written by an associate of his based in Chicago entitled Destroying Public Safety. Well, that got my attention. It's about the abolition of qualified immunity for NYPD cops, and by dint of that, the likely coming removal of qualified immunity for law enforcement all around the nation. That's a trend. And we're going to have more about that tonight. And yes, that's a work in progress as more and more states fall in with that line. The article was written by a gentleman named Charles Love, a man heretofore unknown by me. But here's the deal. Now, I'd missed that boat before by not jumping on the Lonnie Poindexter bandwagon when he was going to set up an interview with me and Pastor Bruce Rivers, who unfortunately passed away before I could even meet the man. Lonnie told me that I would dig him and we'd have a great time and I would really enjoy his stories. And for that, I myself am very sad because he said I would really have enjoyed him, and I believe it. And then God intervened. I was determined not to let that happen again because Lonnie knows tons of great people. So I would like to welcome Charles Love to the Saloon, and thank you so kindly for being here tonight, sir.
It is great to be here. Do I call you Bloviating? BZ?
BZ is...
Mr. Zeppelin?
B is...
I'm already starting. You got me up late at night. I got to go.
I know. Well, you said in one of the promos, you retweeted something for me, and you said, I normally talk fast, and I might be working some caffeine by the time that I get to you. And I don't know if you caught this, but I said no Red Bulls were harmed in the making of this show tonight. So just remember, very important. Before we get to the article, which is short and breathtakingly cogent and concise, I'd like to tell you folks a little bit about Charles Love. Now, first, I think the most important part, and he can correct me obviously, he has his own radio show, the Charles Love Show, which can be heard on terrestrial radio every Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central on AM 560, The Answer in Chicago. Now, they describe you as, and your intro is, in our divided nation, many in the media have succumbed to partisan echo chambers. They either serve red meat to the right or coddle feelings on the left with safe spaces and security blankets. So where do all the critical thinkers go? They found a home in the Charles Love Show. So that's what the AM 560 website in Chicago says about you. So Charles Love, if you would, first tell us a little bit about your show.
Well, what I wanted to do is, like you talked about meeting through Lonnie and on the internet, you meet some interesting people. There's a lot of people in the world, a lot of people in this country. Everybody's got a story. Some of them are, actionable, and they work in different arenas that would give you some unique takes on stuff. They've had experiences. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you watch TV, you listen to radio, and everybody's talking to the same people. Even the popular shows you may or may not like. You're like, I like that guy. He gives the news to you straight, but just few and far between. But they have the same guest, right?
Yeah.
Right? So that's the first problem. But beyond having the same guest, when the guests come on, they get, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, but they split the screen with another guest.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't really get anything. And like we talked earlier, and I joked, I'm like, this time goes by fast when we're talking 2 hours or 30 minutes or 20 minutes. Time goes by fast. And, these people you invite guests on, I'm sure you've had it, and they say, well, how much time do I have? You say, you got the whole hour. Or in my case, I say, well, we're going to do 2 segments. You get 25 minutes. Oh, that's plenty of time. I said, well, I have commercials, and I get to talk too. So it goes a lot faster than you think it goes. So what I wanted to do was say, okay, you get a topic. We spend so much time arguing about the partisanship and how people skew the news, but just factual. It happens. But the bigger problem is you never really get to talk about whatever the issue is, so no one ever can give you solutions. So what you do is you say, whatever the topic is, abortion, LGBT, race, whatever. What's the problem? This article came out, and I was upset about it. What do you think? I think it was great. I think it was bad. And now on to the next story. So no one really gets into what the issue is or offers a solution. So we end up in the same place we were before. So what I do differently on the show is my show is also 2 hours. Unlike yours, I can't just go for 2 hours. I have commercials. But I bring on a guest for each hour to talk about whatever they've done, book, article, something, or what they do, or an issue, topic that we face in the country today. And we spend the whole hour talking about that, and then the next hour I talk about that, do the same thing with another guest. So we may have, I think I did, just off the top of my head, an episode on criminal justice reform, what it actually is, what would be good about it, what's bad about it, and brought someone on, and we just talked about that for a whole hour. Now, I may ask questions. I want to make sure that we cover as much of the topic as we can. I always end the interviews with, pretty much, okay, so what do we do about it? What's the solution? But I get pushback sometimes because I have my views. Believe me, I have my opinions.
No.
But I bring people on because I want to hear people to talk about the topic, and you don't really get a wide breadth and diverse ideas if you become that, crossfire show where you're just arguing with your guests. So I don't have to agree with them. You can, if you have an astute audience, they can listen to it and say, I disagree with it, and that guy said something that's not factual. Here's the evidence. My job is to make sure you hear more than what you get in a 2-minute soundbite on TV or on radio. So that's what I do. So there's a lot of good shows. I mean, TV not so much because it's so short, but radio, there's some great radio shows out there with some good hosts that know their stuff, and they get some fine guests. But the better the guest, the more knowledgeable the guest, the more time I really need. So the longest segment you usually get is the guy gets, 10 minutes. All he can really do is answer a couple questions, and the host gets to talk a little bit, and that's the end. So I wanted to bring more to the topic than what you really get. So that's kind of what the show is about.
And I think that's a luxury that a lot of people don't have, particularly on terrestrial radio.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're as frustrated as I am when you look at various, you go to Fox or CNN or something like that, and you look at a particular guest, and two things come to mind almost immediately. Number one, let the guest speak. I want to hear what this guest is saying. Would you just shut up and let the guest make their point? And the second thing is, for a fact that the producer is chirping in the ear of that person, the host, saying, move along, move along, move along, move along. They got a good story. I want to hear it. That's the brilliance of having 2 hours like you do, and the 2 hours like I do, being able to structure it almost any darn way I want to, because I want to hear what the people have to say.
Well, it's funny that you say that. I'm so mindful of it, almost to a fault sometimes, because I can be long-witted. We all sometimes get to a question, and we take 30 seconds too long or a minute too long to get to the question. So when I was starting, obviously I was feeling out how I was going to do the show. And I thought it would be 50-50 live and recorded. I knew some of the guests were going to be recorded because, as you know, look at the time slot of your show. It's just hard to get certain guests all over the country at a designated time all the time, right? So I was like, I know I'm going to record some and some are going to be live, but I just knew going in I would prefer the live because I like, just a real conversation, that kind of thing.
Yep.
But what as the show morphed, it became more recorded, and it was better in the sense that because I never edit the guest, but what I can do is, so I got pretty good at it. So I knew that, like, we talk about an hour and talk about limited time. With commercials, I'm about 39 minutes in an hour, right? So when I bring a guest on a topic, I tell them I need at least 45 minutes, and I usually record between 42 and 50 minutes, right? But the goal is not to cut them, is so I get more material, and if it goes long when I go to edit to get to the breaks, I cut out my questions, and I ask to make the questions shorter. Or I'll just ask the question live, and I say, we talked about this, and I said this, and we did this. Here's his response. So I make it less about me, so I cut some of my conversation out so you can get more of the meat of the conversation. So it's funny that you mentioned that about, the producer telling the host to hurry up. And that's so because I try not to make it all about me while I'm talking so much. I want to hear what they got to say. I want to ask the questions that the people want to hear, but I don't want to spend two minutes every time I ask a question.
Exactly. And it's, like I say, it's extremely frustrating. That reminds me, while we're kind of on this topic, I asked you earlier, and I just want to confirm, if people want to call in and talk to you, either ask you a question, make a comment or something like that, that's okay with you then?
Oh, they can call in if you're live, and they can send you messages and you can read them. I'm game.
Okay. Okay, so everybody that's in the SHR Media chat room, if you have a question once we get going here with Charles Love, then either write it in the chat room right here, or the phone number, as everybody knows, is 575-208-4481. 575-208-4481. Now I'm going to change over to this over here. So if you happen to be watching me now on Facebook or YouTube, the phone number is at the bottom of the screen, 575-208-4481. Once we get rolling, and I suspect this show is going to roll tonight, give me a call, or if you're not big on calling, hey, put the question in the chat room. Now, I'm monitoring the SHR Media chat room right now, so if you've got it, I would highly recommend, if you're on Facebook or YouTube right now, if you can, roll over to shrmedia.com, go into that chat room, and I would love to see everybody there, because there are so many topics to talk about tonight. OMG, here we go. But wait, there's more. Now, Charles Love, you are also Assistant Executive Director of SEE, which is Seeking Educational Excellence, which I did not know until I read some more about you. SEE is described on your site as an organization committed to ending identity politics and the social justice agenda in schools. Hang on to that, folks. Hang on to that. We'll get back to that because we're not done. The other thing I told you, Charles Love, is tonight we're going to talk about your book, because when people have a book that they're promoting, I always want to make sure that I get to that, and I, in fact, pre-ordered a copy of your book today. You have a book coming out in hardcover on September 28th of this year, and folks, if you want to go quick like a bunny to your favorite book ordering organization, as I have, the book is called Race Crazy BLM 1619 and the Progressive Racism Movement. Race Crazy BLM 1619 and the Progressive Racism Movement. So I pre-ordered a copy because I want to read that thing. First thing, Charles Love, kudos to you, sir, for coming out in hardcover instead of paperback. I've interviewed a bunch of authors, and in that world, that's a significant accomplishment in and of itself for a first-time author, except I don't think you're a first-time author, though, are you?
And no, this is my third book. It is the first one fully, hardcover, full, big publisher, but this is the right one to come out that way. So it's an onslaught that we're getting, and it's going to be an amazing, interesting read for people.
I knew that if you were a friend of Lonnie Poindexter, that I would probably like you immediately. And when we spoke first with Lonnie, well, I'll get to that in a second. Your book is described this way. The progressive left has gone race crazy, and they want to take America down the same path of insanity. When did America become obsessed with racial differences? After decades of progress healing real-world prejudices and anger, we suddenly live in an America where we are expected to view every single thing through the lens of race. So, Charles Love, when that book comes out, we have to talk, sir. We're going to talk about some of it tonight, but a book, that again, of course, is a book-length topic. Maybe this is a good time to delve into your work as Assistant Executive Director of SEE, which is Seeking Educational Excellence. What is the goal of SEE, and why was it formed?
Well, that's interesting. We had to maneuver a little bit. So the original plan and idea of the organization was to help people who are struggling through education. We're solutions-based. So we look at the problems in education and say, why are people failing? What is missing? And how can we fix it? And what we found was, obviously, it's a big problem. No one solved it because there's a lot of moving parts. But, what's the thing that you can do initially that would have the most impact? And what I like about it is nonpartisan. I always say, I have my opinions, I have my views, political views, but that doesn't matter. The way I argue and debate with people is I give them their argument. So let's assume, so I would do that a lot tonight, so I want your listeners to know that not to get upset, is if they hear something, they think it sounds like some lefty crazy stuff. Obviously, by my bona fides and the name of my book, that is not me. But what I want to say is, even if you're right, you're wrong. That's my point.
Okay.
And here's what happens. So let's assume that they're right. There's all this racism. There's all this police brutality. There's all this negative stuff that's going on in the world. Okay. But you keep talking about income gaps, income inequality, struggles of the black community. Well, if we know that education is the best way to put yourself in the best position you can, in the highest likelihood to be successful, we know that. And we know that some of these kids who need it most are not getting what they need. Shouldn't we focus on that? So if we have kids, look at the history. There are, people are graduating from high school that can't read. There was an article in the Chicago Tribune, I want to say in the late 80s, 87 or 88, that said, this is graduation season, and all these kids will be graduating high school this week, and many of them can't read their diploma. That was 30 years ago. You go 5 to 7 years ago, I forget how long ago, time flies, in Atlanta where they had the cheating scandal, and people went to jail, right, for passing kids and cheating on the test and so they can get higher percentages. But that doesn't help the kids. So we know that happened. In Chicago right now, people scrape up the money. If you make more than $50,000 a year, which is not a lot of money in Chicago, you are trying everything you can to send your kids to private school. Nobody wants to send their kids to the public schools in Chicago because they're struggling except for selective enrollment. So why is that? So I look at that. So if that's the state of the world today, and now we're saying the problem with schools is that we need to teach more slavery, we need to teach more negative history, more white supremacy, more wokeness, more anti-racism. We need to teach that. So let's walk this through. Give them their argument. We teach that because that's what they're missing. So these kids who are already failing, either dropping out, being passed through, getting diplomas that they don't earn, but they're reading at the 8th grade level. So that's already happening. That's baked in. So now, instead of teaching them STEM, we are going to say, no, let's make them woke. Let's teach the white kids that they're privileged, and let's teach the black kids that they're oppressed by those very white kids in their class, and create more animosity. So what's going to happen in 3, 4, 5 years? What's going to happen when these kids go to graduate from high school, go to college, and go to get a job? They're going to be angrier than they would have been before. They're going to know less because the school day didn't get any longer. So you didn't say, well, you all stay an extra hour and a half every day so we can teach you woke. No, we're going to say, well, let's take that chemistry off the table, or that dance, or now you can't learn to play piano or to do shop or to do anything else in school because we got to, jam the slavery down your throat. So now, and they're doing it primarily, they're doing it in all the schools, but they're removing stuff from the curriculum to make room for it in poor areas where you tend to have, especially urban areas where you tend to have more black and Hispanic kids. So basically, I say what you're doing is you're teaching the white kids to code and pushing them towards engineering and math, and you're teaching me to be woke. How are you helping? So that's what the organization initially started to do, but we had to shift because 1619 and CRT became, critical race theory,
right,
became such a big thing that now we can't even do that anymore because think about it. We're about 3 years old. So when we started, there was no 1619 in the schools. There was no critical race theory in the schools. Now they're teaching the way they teach math and science. They're teaching you that math is racist. There's a woman who's in the administration at Rutgers University, and she put out this thing saying 2 + 2 = 5 because saying that 2 + 2 = 4 is racist, and that's just buying into white supremacy. This is where we've gone.
It's really funny that you should mention that because a couple of the articles that I wanted to talk about later on, and I hope we get to, involve that exact same thing. Involved in Los Angeles and also in the state of Washington. These are not just, every day I wake up, and I guess you do too, Charles Love, and say to yourself, what new crazy foolishness will we see foisted upon us today? So when you mention that, and I've read that, you're not kidding. Math is racist.
Yep.
Prove your work. Show your work. That's racist. It staggers the imagination completely.
Right.
But you're right. There it is. And the other thing that I hadn't thought about is, in order to teach the extra GURP that they're shoving down the throats of kids, something's got to go.
Yeah. You don't get a longer school day. Something's got to go. Crazy, right?
And that's where we are. So SEE, how does SEE go about attempting to enable that?
Oh, is it a mountain? Help us out, people. Help us out. So
okay.
we actually attack it from, because we want to have solutions. So we have to attack it from everywhere. So we look at it like, if we can take smaller groups and build on everything, we can replicate and get larger. So it's not like we take every kid in the country, but we'll do as many as we can. So we look at everything. What is lacking? Because let me give you. You said, I was listening to your intro, and it was something there I liked. You talked about. You were just doing this riff, and then you say something about former Republican, and I laugh because everybody thinks that in order to be anti-woke, you have to be a Republican.
No,
this is not political stuff, people. This is my fight is a cultural fight. I could care less about, because let's be real, Republicans out there, nothing against you, but it doesn't matter who you have in the White House, who you have in Congress. Donald Trump could have won 7 more terms. If we're not controlling the culture, he can only slow the decline. The decline is coming. If you have Republicans and governors in every state, it doesn't matter, because eventually they're going to crumble, because the culture is where, we hear about cancel culture and these other things, where the mob rules. This is the Oxbow incident all over again, right? The mob gets to dictate what happens. And until we push back against that, we've been condoning bad behavior. So I say that to say, I focus on what will work. So from what we do at C is we look at everything. So for instance, do you remember this? About 18 months ago, all these top colleges came out and said they were considering, I think most of them reversed their decision, but they were going to stop using the SAT, ACT for admissions because it's racist, because whites do better on the test. And you ask them, well, why is it racist? And they say, well, those white kids can afford all the fancy college prep to help them get the scores up, right? So again, I will say this a lot tonight, give them their argument. If that's the case, the solution isn't to get rid of the test. The solution is to give the Black and Hispanic kids college prep. We give them college prep. So we have these great college prep courses that is self-guided, but they get some mentorship and tutorship throughout the process. It gives them tips and tricks. It's pretty much like a Princeton or a Kaplan review. The two differences is, one, that we also add a piece selecting college. Because if you're poor or your parents never went to college, and you need guidance to get through this process, and you want to go to college, right? What are you going to say? Where do you want to go? You only want to say the Ivies because you've heard of them, or Division I schools because you watch football and basketball. So I want to go to Michigan. I want to go to Alabama. I want to go to Harvard, right? But those might not be the best schools for you, but there's no one there to guide you. So one piece we add is we will sit down with you and say, okay, the college prep course will say, take your skill sets, what you're good at based on your test, what you want to do, and say, oh, you want to go to Michigan, you want to go to Harvard. Well, I got this school over here in Kansas you've never heard of that has a pretty good program, 4-year program for that career, and they'll give you a scholarship. So we help find them money. That's one big difference. It's not just the college prep. And two is we go to donors to donate the money. So even though it still costs about the same as Kaplan, it's free to the end user.
Absolutely
because
perfect.
We get other people to donate money so you can get the press. So it solves that problem. That's one piece. But then, obviously, we're pushing back against the wokeness. So what we do from that standpoint is we highlight what's going on and try to create a network. So it's almost like Project Veritas, James O'Keefe.
Right.
It's like Project Veritas for schools. So a lot of the times, let's be honest, everybody thinks this stuff is political. The average parent, white or black, would not go for what's going on. But they're not paying attention. They got 2 jobs. They got several kids. They got COVID they're dealing with. They just don't know what's going on, right?
Exactly. And by the way,
so what we do is we try to teach them.
You're going to hear that probably a whole bunch of times tonight, folks, because Charles Love hasn't been here before, but that goes off every time anybody makes an incredible point. We're going to break for a couple of minutes. We're talking to Charles Love. I'm BZ. You're in the Saloon. We'll be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right. We're back. So please join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Unleashed Jeremy Hansen, the most explosive pro-American podcast on the planet. Pro-MAGA, pro-Trump, pro-conservative. Come join the resistance. Fight for what really matters in America. 5 p.m. Central on UJHLive.com, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Pandora, or MAGAbook.com. Come join the resistance and fight for America. Unleashed Jeremy Hansen.
Do you value yourself, your family, your friends? Want to know more about how to survive, thrive, and stay alive in these dynamic times? Listen to Around the Campfire with Kate, Thursday nights and Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, only on PSN TV. That's Around the Campfire with Kate. News that nobody in the MSM wants to report. Remember, train hard, train smart to survive, thrive, and stay alive.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the Saloon. Folks, tonight we're listening to Charles Love, who has his own terrestrial radio show every Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central on AM 560, The Answer in Chicago. He's also Assistant Executive Director of SEE, which is Seeking Educational Excellence, which is what we were talking about just before the break, and he also has a book coming out in September that you can pre-order now, as I have, entitled Race Crazy, BLM 1619 and the Progressive Racism Movement. Before the break, I had asked Charles Love, SEE, what do you guys do and how do you get it done? And he was kind of in the middle of that. So, Charles, if you have anything more that you'd like to add, please go, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say that we understand that a lot of things, just kind of like politics, is local. So I talked about getting parents involved, letting them know what's going on in the school, so we make sure we get that information. There's got to be teachers who don't want to sign on to this stuff, but they're afraid to push back. Obviously, don't want to lose their jobs, but they can, reach out to us anonymously and at least give us insight as to what's going on in the school. Like, hey, our administrators had us go to this meeting. Hey, they're making us do this. So that makes so we can disseminate the information and let people know what their schools are doing. Another thing is to help. Is a big push to get people, good, solid people, parents who care about their communities, to run for the school board. Because if you can't if you don't have the administration, you don't have the politicians, and you don't have the school board, then all this effort is for nothing if you don't even try to push back against that. To run, but also to go to the meetings. If you can't win the seats, go there and stand up and make them hear. I mean, look, there have been news stories in the last couple of months all over the country where school boards, remember, they all resigned in San Francisco after making fun of parents. They're getting in trouble because people are going to the meetings, right? These people are working for you. They're representing what's happening with your kids. You have to be there. So we just try to do it from every angle, from an educational angle, from the support, from teaching people critical thinking skills, not critical race. And we're also working on a virtual, depending on what happens with COVID, we like to do it live, a series of educational speaking events where we bring people out to speak on different facets. So the last piece I wanted to mention was, I talked about the reason I brought up the conservative piece and being a Republican is whenever I interview people on the show and they're all Republicans and they're all school choice advocates. I'm a school choice advocate, love school choice. But I yell at them, I say, you can't put all your eggs into that basket because what you don't see how fast, they do now, but this is a year ago, I'm saying you don't see how fast this woke train is moving, and you think school choice is the solution. What are you going to do when the private schools and the charter schools are as woke as the public schools? So now all you're doing is saying, hey, poor black kid in the inner city who's going to a roach-infested school with gangs, why don't you come over here to this very clean school that's brand new and is shiny and pretty that's also teaching you the same crap the other school is teaching you? You're not improving their education. You're not changing the environment. All you're doing is giving them a better building and, maybe fewer gang members. But you're not changing the education. They're still being indoctrinated. So school choice won't fix that problem because the culture as a whole is sliding that way.
You make an excellent point, Charles Love, insofar as I'm reading week by week, air quotes, religious schools that are pushing this same stuff.
Yeah, and definitely the private schools that are secular. Your British school, your this school, your Dalton school, your $60,000 schools in New York City where Megyn Kelly pulled her kids from. Yeah, we knew we lost the public schools. It took a month and a half. We lost all the high-end, expensive private schools. Those are gone too. But I'll give you one. So my son's he was going to like pre-K at a private school in Chicago.
Okay.
Picked it because we could have gone to public school, but I told you nobody goes to public schools because they're terrible. But we picked this one because it was Christian-based. And they went even further. What they did was they have boys and girls in the school, but the classes are unisex. So I think kindergarten and first grade, no, maybe just kindergarten, they go to school together. After that, they play and eat lunch together and all that. But in class, the girls and boys are separate. So my thinking was, I knew, because I've been talking about this well before anybody. I can go back and find recordings. Before anybody prominent, I was on this. Culture. And I said, it's going to happen. But I'm staking the claim in the fact that since they separate the boys and girls, it's going to take them longer to get to this, crazy race and gender push, because if your whole model is to raise the kids and teach them in separate classes, how you gonna go woke overnight? That's what I'm thinking. So we enrolled them and we went through all the process. And so school was going to start, and a couple months before school was going to start, they invited all the parents to meet them. So, hey, meet the teachers, it's going to be great. And they had hired a diversity person.
Wonderful.
And so they're talking about, they're introducing them. They're so excited about having it because he's going to teach them how they can be more inclusive and nicer to the minority students and all this other kind of stuff. So me, because I was a professional at this when everybody else was a novice, I just asked a simple question. Can you just explain to me when you realized you were racist and what you were doing that was racist? And they're like, what do you mean? Well, clearly you hired him because you were treating the black students so poorly. And you had an epiphany. So can you explain some of the things you were doing before? And they looked at me like I was crazy because clearly it's a Catholic school. They weren't doing anything wrong before. So why'd you need a diversity guy?
Why isn't everybody asking that question?
Right. This is the kind of school where they encourage the people who are there to donate. But what they do with their donations, so it's a private school, so you pay. And a small percentage of that goes to helping people who can't afford it. But then they do these fundraisers and they raise money from the parents of the students, and they use that money to give scholarships so poor kids can get into the school. So you are already doing that. Yet you had to hire some guy so you can self-flagellate and be, I'm so sorry that I'm white. Oh, I'm so bad that I only gave 10 poor kids a free ride to this private school and not 20. Oh, I'm such a bad person. So if the people who understand how to treat people fairly are saying that they're being unfair, it's all a lost cause. So I knew then that the ship itself, and we almost had to wait until the pendulum swung back. I mean, I still fight, but I'm like, I see this as most of this news, and I'll report it and I talk about it to wake people up in the middle. But for the most part, I'm like, what should we do about that? Well, nothing you can do about it. You're going to have to wait for the pendulum to swing back. You let it go too far.
Well, it's like I've said before. The problem is, at this point, the iceberg is too big You didn't have your eyes on the horizon to see what was ahead of you. And the damn ship is too slow at this point. Now, we kind of know that everything is cyclical. And I don't say lose hope, but what I do say is there's more to come.
It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yes.
But I think it's going to get better. I think the key and the other mistakes conservatives make is nothing wrong with, you need a percentage of that. You need the Sean Hannitys, the Rush Limbaughs. You need the people who rah-rah the troop and fire up the troops. But there's simply not enough of us. I think there's more people who are against the far left, 100%. There's 20 times more. But it doesn't matter because the average person who would disagree with, in theory, thinks that stuff is bad, aren't paying attention to it every day. They're not watching the news and not paying attention to it every day. So what you have is you have the true conservatives, your patriots who are out there fighting, standing on the front line. And there's a smaller number of them. You got a small number of woke left doing it. It's a small number too, but they got all the microphones, all the TV, all the media, all the movies, and they help all that. So you're fighting up here. They got the corporations, the CEOs of every corporation. So they got all that on their side. But what we're missing, so most conservatives want to talk to each other like, this is bad, look at this lefty. To know what you need, and thank God we're starting to get them. I'm seeing these organizations start every month. What you need is center-left people who would, if you're a conservative, would disagree with you on 80% of policy. I know a couple people really well. They disagree with me on every policy issue, basically. But we have three things in common. They hate the cancel culture. They are super, super free speech supporters. And they hate anti-racism. That's all I need. My motto is, let's save the culture. We can fight on policy later. So if we reach those people, that's where the tide turns. And we're starting to see it. Slowly, but we're starting to see it.
And that's the important point that you brought out earlier, is that you've got to pull the curtain back to see who the wizard is, because the wizard never wants you to see what's going on, which is why I'm sure that you said, get into your schools, get into your boards. Yeah. They'll lie to your face. Doing, right? No, you don't know what they're doing. And does your kid have the mental fecundity to say, okay, Dad, this is exactly what we did today. Boom, da boom, da boom, da boom, da boom. And then you go, oh,
think about it. When we were little, we were like, how was school? Fine.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah.
No, you've got to know.
Right, you're right about that, because here's the thing. I don't know if it's too early to say this, because people always say, oh, it's just so people die. And I said, look, this is the reality of life. Everything is bad and good. There's going to be some good things that come out of this COVID thing. We're going to have some technologies we never had before. Things were moving in a direction, but it probably was going to take 15 years on some of the technology stuff. Now it's going to be like 3 years because they were forced to do it faster. So some of that stuff. But here's another thing. Parents started to see, because of remote learning, what their teachers were doing.
Oh my God. Is that ever the truth? There's a reason they don't want to go back. That's a topic for another day. But again, know what's being taught. Know what the advocates are all about. A perfect point for that would be, I spoke to Andrew Pollack back in November of 2019. And his daughter Meadow was shot and killed that day at Parkland. And he said, I don't blame the shooter. And he refused to name the shooter. He said, I blame the school and the school district who knew what he was, where he was, his advocacy, his insanity, and they did nothing about it. As a matter of fact, they didn't just not do anything about it. They covered for him. They purposely made sure that what he was doing on and off school grounds was completely kept away from the community, the school officers.
Well, look, Z, Obama did this due diligence, and he found out that too many black and brown kids a disproportionate number were being suspended. So I call it negative equality, right? So everybody say they want equality. So negative equality is equality too. So if you get $50,000 and I'm poor, you think giving me $50,000 too is equality, which is true. It's equal, right? We got the same. It's equity. But so is taking your $50,000. So I call it negative equality. So what Obama said was, well, it's too many black and brown kids being suspended. But it's too hard to try to figure out, is it behavior, is it their fault? Let's just stop suspending everybody. And if we just stop suspending people, then nobody's suspended. Yay, I just saved the black kids from being suspended.
Oh, yay,
you also let the kids terrorize the other kids.
Right. One size fits all. We all know that.
Yep.
And it was painful to just listen to him say that. I said long ago, if the progressives run two of these major functions, they will have control of society. One was the Supreme Court, and the other one was education. At this point, education is the ball is rolling. It's a fireball, and it's about to just fall off completely.
Yeah, they have it all. They have K through 12, and they have the colleges. And for a while, they had a stronghold where we have the college, and if you speak out against us, we can cancel you on college. Now some people are speaking up, but it's going to take a little while. But the pushback actually, ironically, is coming faster at college than it is at K through 12. But then that makes sense if you think about it, because at least there's some professors on campus. Now, there are not enough conservatives on campus, but when the liberals who are true liberals and not leftists start speaking up, now you had a fight. But in K through 12, who's going to fight? The teachers' union is too strong. They get the elected officials elected who appoint the administrators, so they're basically negotiating with themselves. So you're never going to have the school administrators stand up to the teachers' union, and then the parents aren't there. They don't know. So that's why it takes people like, C and all these other educational groups to, Moms for America, Moms for Liberty, all those groups to come out and let these parents know what's going on.
Yeah, again, that's about the 75th salient point you've made just in under an hour in terms of now, folks, do you begin to understand why the big push is on for kindergartners to learn CRT, to learn that they can switch gender at will, which is the other thing that I think is hopeful is that people like yourself, organizations similar to that, are coming to the forefront, and people are beginning to pay attention. So as I said before, all is not lost. Do not think that all is not lost, because it takes people like Charles Love, who we're talking tonight to, and people like Charles who are trying to put the semaphore up in the air and the big signals and say, pay attention, look, see, understand. One thing that I hadn't, and this just popped into my head. What do we got, about 10 minutes left? I'm pretty sure I can make this point in this amount of time. I wasn't going to ask you this, but it just made me think, you know what? I've spoken to a whole bunch of people that happen to be black. As Lonnie Poindexter says, it's just a paint job. But I have to mention black because it's so terribly important to the leftist Democrats and American media maggots, because that's what their world is, race and gender. But I've had a whole bunch of people on the show who have said, you know what? I have paid a terrible price personally to just say what I say. And my guess would be, because you don't, let me understand you correctly, Charles Love, you don't align with the Republican Party at all.
No.
Okay. So it's not about that. It's not about that fact, though you're not an avowed Republican, my guess is you've taken a truckload of crap over your points.
This will pleasantly surprise you. It's going to shock you. Okay. I am probably, if not the only, I'm the only who heard it, but one of very few black conservatives who actually has to answer no to that question. Shocking, isn't it?
On the other hand, that's your proverbial breath of fresh air.
You know why?
I'd love to.
Because, and I think the reason is my approach. And it's not because, it's not that I would tell others. Now, the average people who are talking to friends, I'd say, you should do what I do. But other people, pundits, writers, academics, everybody has a voice. They need to use their voice because you will reach a different person with that voice. Like, I don't begrudge anybody. There's nobody I dislike. I don't dislike Candace Owen. I don't dislike anybody. They have a different audience, right? So Candace may reach somebody that I can reach, and I might reach somebody she can't reach, and Sean Hannity, it's the same thing. So it's not a knock on anybody. It's just different approaches. But the reason I think, this is just me analyzing because I hear so many people saying it, is because, one, a lot of the black conservatives are Republicans. So they were out there stumping for Trump. I never speak about Trump because Trump's not my issue. Nothing against him. I never bash him. I got nothing positive to say about him either, because I'm not talking about Trump. I'm talking about the culture. This is my third book. I've been writing about the culture for 11 years. And it was never about who the politician is. Politicians come and go. It's not a knock on any of them. I don't have a knock on Obama. I might have my personal views on his politics, but, I don't spend my time. So that's the first thing. So I don't get into political attacks, I get on attacks on the culture and the issues. Number two, I told you my big thing is to give them their argument. So I will debate a liberal because I think we can find some common ground somewhere. Or at least I can get them to understand what I'm saying. Even if they disagree, it's like, oh, I see what you're saying. You're not a white supremacist. It makes sense what you're saying. I disagree with it. It makes sense. I can't do that with a leftist. So you know what I do? Once I realize that person's far left and they say, well, I just think that all cops should be fired. You know what I say? Okay. And then I end the conversation. I move on. I don't argue. I don't call them a libtard. I just say, okay. It's not worth my energy, and I just move on. And then they try to engage. I don't respond. I was like, there's nothing else to say. I get it. You're a crazy leftist. I'm not going to call you a crazy leftist. I'm just going to stop talking to you because it's a waste of my energy. So I don't even do that. I don't engage. I watch people on Twitter and on Facebook. You watch these people on Facebook get into these big fights with it. You just think this, and you're just dumb, and you don't think like, yeah, that's not going to convince them. But obviously, you're not actually trying to convince them. But what's the point? It's a waste of energy. So that's another thing that I do. So I don't get into political debates, and then I talk about the culture, and I give them their argument. So how are you going to get mad at me? I wrote an article about white wokeness. Was it that one? It was one of the other ones. So I went on, I want to say Martha McCallum, and I did an interview about whatever. And so someone asked me what the reaction was like. And I said the best reaction I got was the fact that some of my closest friends from high school, growing up, whatever, I know a lot of these people, liberal, whatever, they said, man, I saw you. And I wanted to hate and disagree with everything you said, but I did not. Everything you said was spot on and made sense, right? And most of my talk, when I talk race, is like, it goes, basically, I can summarize it in less than 2 minutes like this. You can talk about racism if you want, that's fine. Police brutality if you want, whatever. All I'm saying is there are issues in the black community, and many people want to fix them. I assume positive intent. So I'm assuming you're fill in the name Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, whoever, really wants to help. I'm not going to get in an argument because I can't get in their head. I'm assuming they say they care. I assume they care. Here's the problem. If you're trying to fix the problem, the way you fix the problem is dictated. Your approach is going to be dictated by what you think the problem is, correct? So if you think that a percentage of blacks are poor and struggling, it's not the majority, but it's more a higher percentage than other races, and we need to find out why we need to help. You will approach that in a certain way. Now, on the other hand, if like Julianne Moore, Kerry Washington, LeBron James, and all the rest of them, you think black men are being hunted, you think black people are being gunned down in the street, and you think the majority of black people are uneducated, poor, and criminals, now, won't you address that problem a little differently? Of course your response is going to be burn it all down because you don't see a way to fix that. You don't see a way to fix it because you're wrong. So what I say, and I get a few attacks, but even the people who attack me, we all laugh at them. So let me get this straight. You say I'm a mouthpiece for Trump and the right because I take issue with whites and blacks, assuming that we're all poor. So basically, I'm saying positive stuff about black people, and you're upset. Who's the problem? You see, so that's the way I address it, and I think that's the reason why I don't get, the pushback that a lot of other people get. Because, how are you going to argue with that approach?
Folks, we're talking to Charles Love, and already this is going a ton of places that I hadn't anticipated, but I'm enjoying the hell out of the ride. Let me see if I can summarize a little bit and know that I'm kind of on your track. You're saying, if I'm interpreting this properly, that Biden, Trump, etc., et al., That's way umbrella. And in the long run, really doesn't mean a hell of a lot. What has meaning and importance is the focusing on a specific issue like a little laser beam and making it local. Am I kind of getting there?
Yeah, it's that. And even more simply, don't just get it all hung up in the politics. The things are going to move by the people, right? If you move the people will change who they vote for. So that's only part of the problem. What we do is we say, what did, fill in the politicians say or do and all this other kind of thing. That's not the issue. The issue is, when did we start condoning bad behavior, right? So that's what we end up doing because we think because of youth, and I can tell you why it happens. It's coming from a good place. It's still causing a problem. I really don't care what your intentions are. If what you're doing is detrimental, it's detrimental. But I give it to you. It's coming from a good place. What they think, because they believe that most people, black people, are struggling in all the ways I said. So they're like, well, we need to do what we can. So we give them pass. So for instance, I blame, I talk about these groups of people who would never allow their kids or their families to do certain things, right? So they'll be like, if my son did this, it'd be terrible. But black guy knocks over a liquor store, and you're like, well, you got to understand he probably had a really rough childhood. Or they say, you remember AOC said something about poverty, like, I always joke, so everybody who breaks the law is Jean Valjean. So they'll say, well, he probably was stealing bread because he was poor. I said, well, the last time I checked, far more people, black people in general, were poor in the 1950s than today, but they weren't all knocking over old ladies on their block.
Yes.
I know lots of people who grew up poor and they weren't robbing people. So don't give me that that's the reason why it happened. So that's my point. I think that they're coming from a good place, but they're so focused on that they don't see that what they're doing is so detrimental to the people that they claim to help, to the country, to everybody.
And just trying to find information on what is really, really actually occurring in the schools, in the polls, in politics, in your local politics, in your local councils, in your local supervisors. A lot of the folks there do not want you to see. Because as I've said, making the sausage is not going to look good, but you need to know. You need to know the schools. You need to know about the culture. And the thing that I simply don't understand, I'll get to more of this, is who was it that finally determined that in terms of cops, black Americans don't deserve law enforcement protection? And with that, we're going to take a break for 2 or 3 minutes or so. Come back. I'm talking to Charles Love. I would like him to go over the article that he recently wrote March 30th about qualified immunity for police and why that might not be the best idea in the world. I'm BZ, I'm the Zeppelin, and you're in the Saloon. Be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It is he that is me, bringing perspective from across the sea. Join me, Jack Alexander, 4 days a week for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the news and issues affecting life and liberty here in the USA. I'll show you what the mainstream media refuses to. Politics, border security, defense, healthcare, travel, nothing is off limits. Catch the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast each Monday to Thursday on Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere good podcasts can be found. Also, check out the website, www.jackalexanderexperiment.com.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the Unpleasant Blind Guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense League radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for airtimes. It's the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
On EDL Radio.
There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. Oh my God. An hour is gone already. Folks, tonight we're listening to Charles Love, who has his own terrestrial radio show every Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central on AM 560, The Answer in Chicago. He's also Assistant Executive Director of SEE, which is what we've just been talking about, Seeking Educational Excellence. He has a great book that I've already pre-ordered through a pre-ordering kind of organization, air quotes, entitled Race Crazy BLM 1619 and the Progressive Racism Movement. From what I've heard today, I am really glad that I pre-ordered that book, and you can too. Now, one of the reasons that I discovered the existence of Charles Love is Lonnie Poindexter sent me a text about your article, Charles Love, called Destroying Public Safety. It was published at AmericanMind.org on March 30th. And it says, New York's abolition of qualified immunity will crater police confidence and morale. Oh, yes. Will it ever? But just by looking at that, one of the things that I really enjoyed about that, Charles Love, is the fact that in what amounted to 3 printed pages for me, you mentioned the problem, nailed the problem, told everyone what was going to happen, and let everyone know this is what you need to know, and this is what is likely going to happen if you continue on that path. This is a concise article. So if you could, I'd like to go into that in the concept of qualified immunity for police officers, which, of course, in this case, New York City, in its infinite wisdom, decided to eliminate. So first, Charles Love, can you give us a little background? What is qualified immunity? Why is that kind of important, and how does it pertain to police officers?
Well, it's interesting because your qualified immunity is obviously the immunity that shields mostly police and supposedly government officials from liability for civil damages. But people act as if, one, it gives police license to do bad things, and there's no way for them to be punished for it. Silly. Jason Van Dyke's in jail right now for the killing of Laquan McDonald. Yeah. Michael Slater shooting Walter Scott in the back in South Carolina in jail. It's not like police don't go to jail. It's foolishness. And then they say, well, you can't sue them civilly, so you can't get any money. Didn't George Floyd just get $11 billion?
He sure
you
did.
Get money. You can get money because you're not getting it directly from that officer. It's silly. So that's the first argument. Now, we can go in depth in the other arguments of the left because, you know, I'm a left whisperer, so I know what they think. I know what they're going to say before they say it, so they can try every argument on it. Good luck with that. So, and because remember, my argument, I think I did a little bit in this article, is to give them their argument. Because I think at one point in the article, I said, let's assume you're right. Let's assume cops are bad. Not all cops, but many cops are white racists who are hunting down black men. And this would stop them from being protected. Okay. So eventually they're going to retire out. Some of them will get caught up and get sued and they'll lose their job. But there's a vast majority of it. Let's call them higher than it is. It's probably somewhere around 1%. Let's call it 18% of cops. I like that. Forgive me, cops. I'm just painting a picture. But that still means that 82% of the cops are just regular cops doing their jobs. But now they know that they will, even if they don't go to jail, they will lose everything if they make a mistake. Yeah, they're going to become one. And I quote some of my friends, obviously anonymously, because I have a lot of friends who are cops. And they were like, basically, I'm going to become, you might as well call us firemen instead of police officers. Because we're just going to show up after everything happens. It's like, we're going to come and put the numbers down after you get shot. We'll draw you a little chalk around your body. We'll put some little numbers on the bullet shell casings, and then that'll be the end of it. We're not, but when we hear the active shooting, we're going to sit in the car until the shooter's gone, because why risk it? You don't think that'll happen? We had already heard of the Ferguson effect. This will be the Floyd follies or whatever, but it's going to happen. Or these old cops are going to retire. Now, because you talk about me being black conservative earlier, and do I get heat? How are you going to get heat from this? I'm giving you the fact. You'll get a kick out of this. I tell people, I was doing my show and I had somebody on talking about this, and I say, you know what? This will make you laugh, but whenever I get into these debates about these high-profile shooters, which is never, because I don't debate them, I just assume whenever a cop shoots somebody, not only is he guilty, he was literally wearing a Klan hood at the time it happened. What does that have to do with what we're talking about? What does that have to do with, the crime in the community? What does that have to do with all these other things that's going on? So even if you think this cop is racist, what does it do? At some point, you do agree you need cops. You just want good cops. Well, who's going to want to do that job knowing that their livelihood and their house and their wife and their kids and all their money are on the line, right? Virtually no one. Then you're going to say, okay, they're not really going to have to pay it. They're going to have to get insurance, but they'll be carrying the insurance themselves and they'll be paying it. So you're going to pay them 70, 67, depending on the city, it could be as low as 30. You're going to pay them $50,000, and you're going to make them pay $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a year in insurance. Who's going to take that job? It's already a difficult job. You've made it damn near impossible. And the last piece that I say, using your liability, give you your argument. Let's assume we should do that. But then why would we protect other people? Shouldn't we do it? Why are you just pinpointing one government employee? It should be for everyone.
Yep.
I think I did it. So it should be for everyone. So if you're going to do that, here's the way you do it. Okay, qualified immunity, gone. Absolute immunity, gone. I want Cuomo in jail for killing people in nursing homes. But, everybody says that. All the right people say that. It's a Democrat. I'll give you one better. So the city's doing work, and the guy who works for the water department breaks a gas line and destroys a house and a car. All right, that guy should be unemployed, and you should sue him liable. I didn't get this in the article because, like you said, I tried to make it concise. But in Chicago, there was a guy. Everybody knows the one in O'Hare because it was O'Hare and it made national news. But there was a guy who got distracted. I think he was looking at his cell phone, and he drove the train, the L train, on 63rd, and he killed somebody. It took them 2 years to fire him, and he was never sued civilly or criminally. He killed a man with his distracted operation of a train and got nothing but fired, right? But if a cop chases a guy who shoots at him, the guy misses, he chases him. So he knows he had a gun because he just shot at him. He runs into a back alley. It's dark outside. There's adrenaline pumping. It's raining. That guy turns to him in the dark, pulls something out that looks like a gun. He shoots him. It's a cell phone. You want him fired. Then you want him to do 20 years. And then you want to take his pension and you want to take all his money. Why would I apply for that job? So that's pretty much the summation of the article. So one, it doesn't make sense. It makes the neighborhood less safe. And two, if you're going to do it, do everybody. You can't just do police. I want every government employee sued civilly for every mistake they make.
I've said for years, until everyone is equal, no one is equal. And this is an excellent point. The thing that's going around in law enforcement right now is, and it's true, you're about one bad call away from getting removed, from losing your house, your wife, your spouse, your kids, your livelihood, etc. I don't know of any other profession that would demand that you stand still in the face of people spitting at you and assaulting you. Now, in a galaxy not too terribly far away where I came from, there would be a reaction to that, and there should be. But now, including the loss of qualified immunity, as you and I spoke earlier today, the cops don't have to do just a day, a shift, and then, everything's fine. No, they're going to do 20 years of this stuff. So they're going to want to try to see, logically so, if they can acquire an actual retirement at the conclusion of 20 years. Now, if your retirement and your livelihood is on the line every call you go to, the motivation is going to be, well, you write it here. You say eliminating qualified immunity is meant to reduce police brutality, but the unintended consequences may be grave. Under the threat of prosecution or civil liability, many officers are going to be reluctant to be proactive or actively go after criminals. Yes. Yes.
Yep. And I do you one better, because this is why people are so... most of the people screaming the loudest know nothing. And so I get upset at them because I say at the very least you owe everyone an obligation to know what you're talking about. So it's just like I talk about how all the gun grabbers never fired a gun. So they want more background check, but they don't know what the current background check is.
Right.
Same thing with police. Get a police friend. Say, I don't know, probably at least 15 close friends who are cops. And so you say 20 years is not just a shift, but let's get into the shift thing, right? It's not like police officers work 8-hour shifts, but it's worse in post George Floyd and COVID. My friends in Chicago were on mandatory 16s with no day off for 5 weeks.
Yes.
So I tell people, okay, forget about even a dangerous job like policing. Whatever you do, your office job, whatever you do, it's stressful, high demand, whatever you do. You imagine doing that 16 hours a day for 5 weeks without a day off, including the weekends. And see when somebody comes in to get that report that's supposed to be done at 9 and it's 8:59, and because they're asking for it a minute early, if you snap at them, right? So let's see how you're acting on week 4 after 4 weeks of 16s. Now you want this person to be perfect every time, and you don't have to deal with bad guys. It's not possible. What you're asking them to do is to be perfect, which is simply not possible, right? So it's not just I thought it was a cell phone. Everybody wants to paint that picture, right? But it's not just that. It's, the man, we get plenty of them in Chicago. So a man calls the police on his son because he had said, and we know he's got a mental illness because he's domestic. He's threatening me with a bat. He's already hit me once. I think he's going to kill me. I'm scared for my life. And this happens all the time. I love these stories because it's just, it's sad, but you got to use your logic. So cops get there, try to talk the guy down, put the bat down, doesn't put the bat down, boom, boom, shoots him. And then what's the first thing? It's like an abusive a relationship, right? The abused spouse. What is the first thing that family member said? You didn't have to kill him. I didn't call you here to kill him. You could have just talked him down. Well, you know him, and you couldn't get him to stop. So what was I supposed to say? So now we want to, as bad as that is, the cop is feeling terrible about it. Now you want him in jail. You want him out of the job. You want to take his pension away for that. And you think you're going to be able to get more officers? And keep in mind, every city's not the 3, 4, 5 cities where you make a good living. You make a pretty good penny. Chicago cops make more than New York cops. Bigger city, but it's funny, they make more than that. Granted, if you work overtime and all that, you move up. But I'm talking about your average cop in Chicago. They put up a billboard, for in Spanish because, they were trying to find minority cops, saying that you could, after 18 months, you can make $70,000 a year. But what people don't realize is most cops don't make that much money.
Oh, well, no.
Right? So you want a guy who's making, 40, where I came from, I think the cops making 40 or less. So you're going to pay them $35,000 a year and then make them carry $12,000 worth of insurance? I'm not taking that job. I might as well just bag groceries. Especially since the people who don't understand economics because they don't own a business want to make minimum wage $20. I'll just go bag groceries.
Charles Love, GMTA, get out of my brain. In terms of what you were just talking about. Here's a story that I just found today. Police shooting of gunman ruled justified, but family blames police for triggering the suspect's paranoia. So he had a gun. And they know that he's triggered. And they know that he has mental issues. But they called the cops anyway. Cops come equipped with guns. He pulls a gun on the cops. And the cops triggered him. After they called the cops and they, as you said, you didn't see an issue with that?
Yeah, those cops need to be in jail. They need to give up all their pension. Yep. Mm-hmm. How dare they shoot a guy pointing a gun at them? Yeah. And they always, we see it all the time. Well, I didn't want you to kill him. Well, what did you want me to do?
Yeah, sir, here's a kitty. Please don't hurt the kitty. It'll be all better now.
I bet you I'll go one further because I know these minors. I call them emotionally weak and intellectually lazy surface thinkers because they don't think deep. So this is what you ready for this? Mark my words. Save this tape because it's going to happen.
Okay.
They're pushing in these reforms for like, what do they say? You know this really well. They want to have cops accompanied by, what do they call them? Because they don't call them social workers, but they want,
like community service officers, that kind of thing?
Yeah, all these people to go with them. They want like therapists or something to help them. Right. So this is going to happen. It's the same thing that you just happened. So this is what they're going to get what they want. Because I always think what they want is, it's senseless, and then they realize they're wrong. They want more. So now the cop is riding with, therapist or whatever social worker person because it's a mental health. They know it. So they go in and they say, okay, Lisa, go in and talk Johnny down. So Johnny puts a knife to the woman's throat, and then the cop kills Johnny, and it's still the cop's fault. Or the cops don't kill Johnny. Johnny slices the woman's throat and kills her.
And it's their fault.
And now her family's suing the police.
Exactly.
Because why didn't you say the social worker who shouldn't have been here?
Oh, we said that, when they start sending in social workers for this kind of stuff, especially if they're just going to send them in a car by themselves, no cops around, basically Coptum is saying, oh, God, the body cam video of that stuff is going to be so great. Oh, we can't wait. When people realize how life really is.
Right.
They
keep forgetting the bad guys don't have wits. See, everything, so you can think of all this stuff and you have great ideas and they make sense on paper until the bad guy doesn't do what you wanted him to do. If it's new ones, you can't use a neck restraint no matter what. So the guy's 6'7", 246. I'm 5'9", 150, and he's on drugs and he's violent. Right, and he's just trying to get away. He's literally running for his life because he doesn't want to go to jail. And I'm trying to put him down. He's throwing me like a rag dog, and the only way I can put him down is, to break his kneecap or to grab him around the neck, and I can't do either one of those. So what am I supposed to do? Just ask him to get in the car, put some treats in there, and say, oh, if I put some warm brownies in there, he'll just crawl in. What is wrong with these people?
We're getting to the point where they just want the cops to turn around and walk away.
And they're going to. They're going to give them what they want.
Wait a minute. Wait for it. That's not that far away.
They're not going to have a choice.
If you remove the tools, what's left?
Yeah. And the last thing they make the mistake of thinking is they do the same thing with immigration. They think because you're poor, you speak a different language, you're dumb. That has nothing to do with intellect. They think because you're a criminal that you're dumb. So when you lower in California you have grand larceny. It used to be, $1,000. Now we're going to make it $15,000. You don't think the guy's going to steal $14,900 worth of stuff? Because you're like, come on, criminals are stupid. They're not stupid people just because they break the law.
And they know the law, sometimes better than you do, which is how they know they can go to 5 or 6 separate stores, make sure that at the end of the day, if they're caught with anything, it's under that particular limit because they know that the DA will not file for the value of material that they've stolen.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
That's just amazing to process. And I wasn't going to play this. I'm going to play this. Note, folks, I've played this before, but it's still worth playing. This is 2 or 3 years old. Every bit as applicable today. Listen to the leftists and then listen to how life really is for Black Americans. Oh, my God. Oh, just wait. Oh,
I'm Army Horowitz, and I'm here in Berkeley, California, to find out if voter ID...
Berkeley, folks, listen. He's in Berkeley.
laws suppress the black vote.
Oh, I love this video.
Oh, it's great.
Do you have an opinion on voter ID laws?
Yeah, they're usually pretty racist and they're bad.
I think voter ID laws are a way to perpetuate racism.
Would you go as far as say those laws are racist?
For sure.
Do you think it suppresses the African American vote?
Definitely.
Tell us how.
Because they're less likely to have state IDs.
Minority voters are less likely to have the kinds of IDs that have been described or required.
These type of people
Can you be more condescending than that shitbag?
don't live in
areas with easy access to DMVs or other places where they can get identification.
You can always get IDs you do over the internet. Does that also make it difficult for black people in particular?
Yeah, you have to have access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet service provider for certain fees.
Do you think that's harder for black people to go online?
Well, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works.
Okay, you don't have the knowledge, Charles Love, of how it works. That explains everything.
A lot of people have smartphones, but you might not have data. For most of the communities, they don't really know what is out there just because they're not aware or they're not informed. I also think there's a repression of black voting with how if you're a convicted felon, you're not allowed to vote and everything. And when you look at swing states like Florida, that's a huge population of the African Americans.
Now I'm here in East Harlem to ask
You're all convicted felons.
black people their thoughts on what you just heard. Do you have ID normally? You carry ID around?
Yes, I have state ID.
Do you carry ID?
Yes, I do.
Do you know any black person who doesn't carry ID?
No. Everyone that I know has an ID. Why would they think we don't have ID?
That's a lie. Why would they say that?
Do you have ID?
Yes.
Because I have my ID and my friends have their ID, so we know what we need to carry around.
Everybody that I know have ID. That's one of the things you need to walk around with New York with, ID.
Do you know any black adult who does not have ID?
No, I don't.
Is it a weird thing to even say that?
Yes, it is.
What is this, some type of trick candy cameras?
I know, right? That's the only thing I brought with me.
Those are legit IDs. I heard a lot also that black people can't figure out how to get to the DMV.
Really?
Wait.
What does that say to you?
I know it's that. It's on 25th Street.
Do you know where the ID is?
On 25th Street.
It's on 125th Street and 3rd Avenue, I believe.
You know how to get there?
Yeah.
Would you have a problem getting there if you had to get there?
No.
I know these sound like silly questions. You know how to get to the DMV?
Of course.
You know where it is?
Yes.
You can get there?
Uh-huh.
No problem.
No problem.
Just checking.
Okay.
And I also heard a lot that black people, especially poor black people, have no access to the internet, can't figure out how to use the internet.
That's just stupidity, honestly. Everybody has access to the internet. Even a little kid can figure out how to work the internet.
I had access to the internet for years.
You know how to use it properly, right?
Exactly. I do it at work. So, of course, I know how to use it. My kids know how to use it. They all have iPads, iPods, whatever.
Your phone has data?
Mm-hmm.
You can actually
unlimited.
Unlimited data.
Mm-hmm. I use my phone as a hotspot.
What does that say to you for the people who have this perception of black people?
They're pretty much ignorant.
Yeah.
That's what my thought process on.
I just think that's ignorant. Ignorant.
Ignorant. That's the word I'm hearing a lot.
Ignorant.
Ignorant.
Very, very ignorant.
Does it sound racist for somebody to say that?
I think it is a little racist because, you're putting people in a category and you have no idea what you're talking about.
Maybe a little bit of racist in it, but like I said, I think it's more stupidity and ignorance.
You're judging somebody, but you're judging them because they black, saying that they don't got it.
What people are they talking to? Who are these people talking to?
Do you have a problem that if you go to vote and they say, can we please see your ID to make sure you are who you say you are? Are you
Love
cool?
showing my ID.
You got no problem with that?
Nope.
Would you have a problem if when you go to vote, if they say, can we please see your ID to make sure you are who you say you are? Do you have an issue with that?
No.
Would you have a problem if there was a rule where you had to show your ID in order to vote?
I don't think so. No.
Would you have an issue if there was a rule saying you got to show your ID before you vote?
Nah.
Are you cool with that?
Yeah.
And it's all the white people at the beginning. Could those people at the beginning, let me be specific, over what I call GAUPs, guilty overeducated white people, could they possibly be more snide, more smug, more condescending, more patronizing, more insulting, belittling, snobbish, and arrogant? I'm running out of adjectives. Could they possibly be any of those things?
Hey, they're just trying to help, man. That's all they're trying to do. It's easy. These poor black people, you don't know what it's like. I mean, you see them, it's like adopting some wildlife animal and trying to domesticate it, man. It's hard.
I know.
They don't know what they need, but they need the help. Look, I love watching that video. It's hilarious. And I love the guy that gives the address. We thought it was 125th.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. But I tweeted something about a week and a half ago that sums all this up. And I want people, like I said, I want people to look and think differently and respond differently. So I said, nearly all on the left think being black sucks. black in America. Because we have this problem, and I think the solution is for black people, and this problem with the people we see in the media, your Don Lemons and all that. Because Don Lemon let's be real, Don Lemon has a great life, right? Wonderful life in America, successful, primetime show on CNN, making lots of money. And he spends all his time talking about how terrible the country is and how racist it is. But I bet he couldn't tell you the last time he experienced racism. I know, because I ask people all the time that say this. And I'm like, I don't know, about 15 years ago. So what are you talking about? Well, I'm talking about for the other people. You mean the people who are now too poor and too young that you wouldn't even, deem them important enough to speak to you? They don't even talk to those people because it's a class thing, not a race thing. So your upper middle class black people are not talking to black people who are struggling. Even in their own family, they cut them off by now. So it's like if these black people would just say, no, things could be better for certain people in the population. But, across the board, on average, black life is wonderful in America. Why don't you just say that? Just be honest. It's great. It's great being black. It's even greater now because all the white people are washing our feet and bowing down to us. I don't need that, by the way.
I'm bursting at the seams. I want to rewind the tape here for a second. It's a class thing, not a race thing. Hello?
Do you ever ask anybody this question? I ask simple questions. I tell them, it's kind of like think of all the black people you know. Close your eyes. You got them in your mind, everybody from childhood to today. Now, eliminate everybody who doesn't have some kind of license or, advanced degree or certification. So just give me the PhDs, the MDs, the college professors, the CPAs, the engineers, all the people you know, 8 of them, 10 of them, 50 of them, however many you've known in your whole life, even as a kid. How many of them are unemployed, right? So it's the same thing as that. I say, so you have this class issue. You claim there's a racial issue. Especially when you talk about police, especially since you talked about qualified immunity earlier. Let's look at police. I'm not even saying that the police was flawless. Remember, my motto is the cop was wearing a Klan hood when he shot the guy. He was always wrong. So every high-profile guy, let's go Walter Scott, Eric Garner, who else you want to talk about, George Floyd, everybody you can think of, right? All the high-profile ones, right? And say, look at that. And I have a simple question. Not was the cop guilty or right. Not if the guy did anything wrong. I don't want to know all that kind of stuff. All I want to know is how many of those people who were in those situations were those same people I was just mentioning before, the CPA, the lawyer, the doctor, that kind of thing. How many of them had no rap sheet, had never been in the criminal justice system at all? How many of them, which, by the way, if you say, but that's not fair, you're being racist because most black people don't. I always point out that percentage might be higher within the race, but the percentage of blacks that commit violent crimes, you ready for this? 2.7%. Now, we can argue why it's higher than whites, why it's this, why it's that, but the bottom line is that means that over 97% of blacks have never committed a violent crime. 97%. And any crime at all, you're still talking about around 80. That's traffic stop, anything. So my point is, most of us aren't breaking the law. Therefore, if you believe that Julianne Moore is that blacks are being killed in the streets, if you believe the people on that video you played, if you believe all this stuff, you're completely flawed. Because I want to know if black life is so universally bad. I have two very simple questions. It's all logic. It's not political. Very simple. If the white cop is just racist white cop is just going around trolling for black people and hunting them down, as LeBron says, how can he be so lucky? God must be condoning racism because these racists are so blessed, these racist cops, that they never accidentally pull over the MD or the PhD. Every time they shoot a guy, he's got a long criminal record. They are really lucky, right? One. And the other thing is, if you want to say that that black life is so bad and all this other kind of stuff and everybody's struggling, the cops never shoot average Joe. And if they're shooting so many people, they're hunting them down. Remember, LeBron literally said they're hunting blacks down.
Yes, he did.
How do black people end up in jail? Yes or no? Are there black people in jail?
Oh, God,
black
yes.
men.
Yeah.
Like 1 million of them, right? 400,000 in federal prison or whatever. How did they get there? And people are like, oh, every time I ask this question, they look at me, did I chuckle inside because it's so funny. The payoff is so awesome. If they're hunting us all down, now we take all the PhDs, the MDs out the way. Now we just got the unsavory characters. Or the people just made mistakes and they think they're unsavory characters. We have the homeless people, drug addicts, whatever. Not criminals. They're just, falling on hard times. So we got the people that would be perfectly ideal. That racist cop could shoot them and everybody would just see they had it coming. They were bad guys. So how do they end up in prison? If they're hunting them, why won't the cops just shoot them? The prison should be empty of black people because all the black people have been shot by the racist cops trying to
By all the racist cops. There should be stacks like cordwood. Black people should be stacked like cordwood if that's all true.
And everybody in jail should be white.
Sure, exactly.
Because they killed all the minorities.
It's funny, not funny.
It falls apart if you use logic, but we don't. We as conservatives want to argue on their premise. We argue, well, that cop probably did. Here's one of my favorites. And then I'm going to let you talk, but this is one of my favorites. This is one of my new favorites. You remember Jacob Blake? He was the one in Kenosha.
Okay. Going
to the car, walking around the car, got shot. So the left says that an innocent man, unarmed man, was shot 7 times by the police while he was an unarmed man was shot 7 times. Then you turn on the right, you turn on the Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, and they're like, the left is giving you a false narrative. Jacob Scott was shot 7 times by the police, and they're saying it's because he was unarmed. Here he is on 60 Minutes saying he was armed.
Yes.
They're saying he was unarmed. They're saying all this stuff. I give him a B for that. But, I'm on the A team here. BZ, how do you know he was shot 7 times? Because he wasn't, by the way. See, we're arguing on their narrative. He was shot at 7 times. Try to Google it. It's hard to find. The best I could do was a clip of his a quote from his attorney now, his own attorney, suing the police force, saying that they wrongfully shot his client, saying they shot him 4 times. I had other reports that it was 2. I'm going to split the difference and say 3. So the whole world, left and right, has been saying this man got shot 7 times. And there's no evidence to prove he got shot 7 times. Even the right are running with it. They're arguing against why he got shot 7 times. And I'm over here, excuse me. Has he really got shot 7 times? Do we really know? Because it matters. Some people say it doesn't matter. It does. Because it answers why they kept firing, because they missed. And let me ask you something, Mr. It Doesn't Matter. If I shoot at you 2 times and missed, how many times did I shoot you?
Stop with the logic.
Matters.
Stop with the logic.
It matters. I would love to get shot at twice and miss as opposed to getting shot 3 times and hit 3 times.
Yeah, thank you very much. Folks, we're talking to Charles Love. We'll be right back. I'm a little late with the break, but that's okay because it's my damn show. We'll be right back after this, right?
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick you bellows as host, and C.S. Bennett co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right. We're back. So please join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. Oh my God. An hour and a half gone. Bada bing, bada boom. Just like that. Folks, I'm BZ. You're in the Saloon. And tonight we're listening to Charles Love, who has his very own terrestrial radio show every Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central on AM 560 The Answer in Chicago. He's also Assistant Executive Director of SEE, which is Seeking Educational Excellence. And he also has a book coming out that I have pre-ordered called Race Crazy, BLM 1619 and the Progressive Racism Movement. So you can go to your favorite book ordering area, quick like a bunny, and order it like I did, because in September... well, it's obvious. When your book comes out, Charles Love, I would love to have you back, sir, to talk about exactly that.
I would love to be back.
I call, well, let's just not go into specific terminology, but I'll say sort of leftists, what I call the LDAM, leftist Democrats in the American media maggots, the propaganda base. They don't really have any concept of how humanity actually functions. They kind of tend to believe, I think, that everything and everyone essentially occurs and operates in a vacuum. And what they decide is unaffected by other elements, like complications or variables. And they can't see or perceive of any ramifications to their actions more than an inch or two from their faces, and truly much less care. It's like, okay, when you defund the police and every community deserves police protection, is it a shock when you don't get as much police protection after the police are defunded? What? That does not compute. And then you're shocked, I tell you, when then crime skyrockets in all the major cities all across the United States of America. And again, there's a lot of sphincter clenching and cheek slapping up and down. So how did we get here? I don't get it. How did we possibly get here?
Well, the advantage that they have, though, is because they control the media, they can just correct their mistakes, and it just seems like great management. So we can say, defund the police, I'll sign on, and then all of a sudden, this crime spikes in New York, and then de Blasio says, I will do whatever it takes. It's all about safety. I'm going to put 500 to 1,000 additional officers on the trains. And the defund the police crowd doesn't think about where those police must be coming from. They think they're working pro bono, right? I mean, you're not going to pay them. So, of course, you're not going to do it. L.A. can just say, slide $36 million back into the budget. And what are you talking about? What money? Huh? What? Minneapolis is my favorite. So they say they're going to defund the police. But the amount of money they were going to take was really amounting to, well, we're going to cut overtime and all these other pension things that we have to pay, but we know we have to pay it. So we say we're not going to pay it, and then the union goes, you need to pay us this money, and then they say, okay, and then they pay it. So they never even cut. They were the first city to say they were going to cut, and they cut. They said they were going to cut $50 million. I think they cut $1 million.
Yeah, and then, wait, did you just say crime went up? What?
Right. Oh, yeah, that's right. So the criminals weren't as dumb as we thought. So they knew when the cops in the neighborhood, because these people actually know each other. People don't understand it. You know these players that you see in and out all the time. So when they used to see Officer Robert drive around here every 30 minutes, and now we don't see him for every hour and a half, you don't say. Maybe I can do some more dirt here now. Move my operations. Or in Chicago, right? Criminals are dumb, right? So why do you think not just that carjacking spike to where there's like 300 so far this year, okay, but why do you think that they're being committed by 10 to 15-year-olds? Oh, that's right, because Kim Fox doesn't believe in arresting any kids at all, no matter what. So you don't think so? You think that 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds just woke up one day and just said, Mom, today I don't want to play video games. I want to go steal cars. No, somebody's sending them out there. I wonder who that would be. All the criminals you think are too dumb to find a way around your silly little laws.
You know, if you look on page 3 of the job description for a criminal, you'll find on paragraph 4 that exact same thing. Folks, you didn't think they had a job description, but they do. They're smarter than you think they are.
Yep.
You were talking earlier about qualified immunity and the Ferguson effect. You said that you do, in fact, believe the Ferguson effect. The broken windows theory that Giuliani... well, let me back up a little bit. People think, and they are told, and it's hammered into their heads, that 2020 and 2021 are the 2 years of the highest crime, the most gun crime, the highest crime anywhere in the history of the United States. And
that's funny.
Folks...
They don't know the 70s and
Guess
the 80s.
what? The highest gun crime and crime was when I was in robbery in 1994. And I had, in my little cubby, I had 3 areas to take care of, and my robbery cases averaged in Sacramento County about, 40 to 50 to 60 a month. One detective, me, to do that. Now, times that, times the 5 other detectives, that's just in Sacramento County. Now, times that, times 58 counties in the state of California. Now, times that, times 50 states all throughout the United States of America every day in the 90s. Gaslighting, table for $320 million, please. And they buy it. And they buy it.
Yeah. I mean, and in some places it was even higher than higher than that. I know. I always tell a funny story. My wife grew up in New York, and we were sitting around last year. I think it was the year before last, watching some music show about the scenes in New York or something. It might have been the beginning of hip hop or something. And so they're talking about stuff, and we kind of walk through the room, and because she's not watching it, she's just walking the room, and she's looking at it, and they're showing people at parties and how they started to do this party music. She's like, man, the good old days when you could just go to a party and not have to worry about all that stuff getting shot. And I laughed. She's like, what are you talking about? I said, last year in New York, they had 200 and something murders. Let's see how many they had when you were in high school. 987. She was like, what? Yeah, it's because you didn't have social media. You didn't have the CNN and Fox and 24-hour news. So everything was localized. So if they didn't shoot somebody on your block, it's like it didn't happen. You didn't see every shooting in New York. But yeah, New York was doing between 1,000 and 900 murders a year for about 7 years in the late 70s and early 80s.
Oh, it was off the charts. It was absolutely off the charts.
So yeah, things are bad because it's all relative. So we're looking at where it's spiking from, but no, it's nothing like it was. Like I was born and raised in Gary, Indiana. When I was in high school, a couple of years after, it was the murder capital of the country. At
one point, yes. It's funny you should mention Gary, Indiana, because the equivalent of that in California during that time was East Palo Alto. East Palo Alto on the left coast was the murder capital. East Palo Alto, who the hell has ever heard of that? Who's ever heard of Gary, Indiana? But they were the murder capitals, respectively, of the Midwest and the left coast during those times. Gaslighting, it's the worst it's ever been right now, 'cause I say so. Historical Alzheimer's.
Well, I think that's why I love the president, because he's doing such amazing. I mean, he's going after the right things, right? It's fine because I don't understand. It's so obvious. All these people get shot every year. You see all these guys. How many times have you seen a movie or whatever? Every time you see anybody get shot, it's always stabilizing braces, or they're using some gun that they made that they didn't need to have a serial number on. This is brilliant stuff. Did you see what he did today? It's brilliant stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, the people on the right act like people get shot with like handguns and stuff. No, name one person. Name the last time you remember a person getting shot and killed with a handgun. It's been, 40 years since somebody got shot with a gun. It's all assault rifles and homemade guns. Everybody knows that.
Well, and those damn stabilizers. Everybody's got them. Hell, they're so effective, people use them on cars. So cars don't wobble all over the place. That's how damn effective they are. They are because I said it. So if I said it, that must be true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't understand why the people who truly just think guns are bad, I mean, I disagree with them, but whatever. At least be honest so we can fight fairly. I don't understand why they're not yelling at Biden. I'm like, seriously, that's all you gave us? Really? That's what you're giving us?
Yeah.
I mean, he had a press conference about, I thought about it long and hard. I stayed up to 2 p.m. today. Normally it's 1:30, but I went to 2 to make sure I got this right, and I know how to solve the gun problem in America.
That's right.
Stabilize the braces.
That's right. I have solved the gun problem in America. Guns from now on will be assembled with 4-inch knibbly pins and bolts instead of screws. There we go. I have solved the problem now. Next.
And no one says a word. I hope I get it. I know they'll respond. It's kind of late now, but sometime in the morning. I just sent a message before we got on our call to Washington Post, asking them, because I couldn't find, went on their website, and I couldn't find a ticker where they count how many lies Biden tells. No, let's be real. We're gonna act like I'm not in there. I'm not in there with Trump. We're gonna act like Trump never lied. I'm not saying he never lied, and presidents before him lied, but they didn't start the ticker to Trump. But now you got to keep it going. So I just want to know what the Biden ticker is. I want to count his lies. So like when he says the polls in Georgia are going to close at 5 o'clock on election day, and the MLB moves their All-Star game to another city because cutting those 2 hours is just so bad, and then it's not true. I want to beep. Like you ringing a little bell for use of logic. I want a ticker.
Well, sure.
Or like when he says, I don't know. I put together this vaccine, and the vaccine started with me, even though he literally got his shot in his arm before he was president.
Yeah. Oh.
I just want consistency. See, this is why I don't get attacked. I'm not defending Trump. So when somebody says, "Well, Trump lied," I'm like, so. But don't you think like him? So now I'm not defending him. What do you got to say now? I'm not defending him. I just want equal. If you want to count Trump's lies, I want you to count Biden.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, I bet there's no ticker. But Washington Post is going to get back to me in the morning, and I will follow up with you and let you know where on the site you can find the Biden lie ticker, because I know it's there.
Oh, I'm sure they're going to get right back to you.
No, they'll get back to me. I mean, they're good people like that. They're good people. They'll take care of it. That's all I'm saying. You see what I'm saying? How can the left attack me as a partisan? When all I'm asking is, so I'm not saying, you didn't say me can't say anything about Trump. I didn't say Trump did this great. I didn't say Trump is never told lies. I just want to know, apparently the new thing starting with 45 was to track lies. Obama lied sometimes. Bush lied before. People lie. I get it. But Trump is when we started counting them. Okay.
All right, keep it up.
Stop. We need to keep counting.
Right.
So I'd like to know how many lies Biden has. So
sure, keep up the good work.
I don't want your little Pinocchios. I want a running ticker of every single one. I want you to follow him around. When he said, I didn't fall down the stairs, somebody pushed me. Ding.
Yeah.
When he says that stabilizing braces are why people get shot, ding. Yeah. I want a clock. That's all I want. Is it too much to ask?
No, I don't think so. Charles Love, I don't think you're being unreasonable at all. You're a very reasonable guy, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, so I'll let you know what they say. I'm sure it's coming.
Okay. All right.
So maybe they just haven't gotten it up yet.
I would love to hear what they say. We were talking earlier about qualified immunity. Here's another story, and I've got 10 minutes to go. Charles Love, you don't know it, but how I run my show is I pull up my favorite search engine, and I line up all the stories that I want to talk to. And sometimes I have so many stories that I have to pull up 3 separate search engines in a row in order to have all my stories. Each search engine...
We can lightning round if you want to. I can give you short answers. Let's go. Get as many of me as you can.
Okay. All righty then. Boy, this is going to be like the action round involving... And God, if I had a great... And now, folks, we're going to the action round with Charles Love. So, Charles, take it away. Well, the first story I have is New Mexico eliminates police immunity from prosecution. That's exactly what you said earlier. Here's another story. Harmeet Dillon. California threatens cops' rights. Here's how the bill silences police and attacks the First Amendment. We didn't see that coming. That's down the road. The American Spectator, equitable math, California's latest plan. California, by the way, you always have to spell it with a K, at least as far as I'm concerned. California's latest plan to collapse civilization. The state plans to promote anti-racism, as you indicated before in the first hour, by focusing on depth, creativity, visuals, and mathematical beauty. Wait for it. Over correct answers.
Bing, 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 bing.
Charles Love, who thinks of this? Who, in their right fetid, wrinkling brain, thinks and conjures up and then somehow gets this enabled to fruition in any state or community? This is just insane.
I talk about that in the book because the right makes a mistake when they talked about BLM, trying to find the money. Track the money. It's like, no, you need to find the brains of the operation, the people who are feeding them this foolish soup of nonsense and progressive racism. These are the groups and the people that I point out in the book. And to your other point about the immunity for police, I wrote that article, and the next day Chicago passed a form of it.
Oh, did they? Oh, I didn't. I hadn't heard about that. I knew that, well...
It wasn't full-on ending qualified immunity, but it was basically the same kind of deal.
Well, they wanted it. Colorado did it. California, I'm sure, is going to, always spell it with a K, is going to get there very soon. New Mexico just went there.
Come on, what else? Give me some more stories.
Okay, this is great. The nonsense that we're talking about, called equitable math, is described on a webpage called The Pathway to Equitable Math Instruction. Resources.
That's because black people can't do real math. Come on. We got to make them feel good about themselves because they can't do real math.
Sure. Oregon promotes teacher program that seeks to undo racism in mathematics. So it's good to know that at least it's not occurring just in California, always spelled it with a K. It's migrated north up into Oregon as well. They encourage teachers to register for training that encourages... Oh, Charles, are you sitting down, sir?
I am.
Okay, all right, because this is called in Oregon, it encourages ethno-mathematics and argues, among other things, that white supremacy manifests itself in the focus on finding... Wait a minute, if I had a producer... which I don't, you would hear this. It focuses on finding the right answer. But I don't have a producer, so that's not what you heard.
So we didn't hear that.
Yeah. So, but if I did have a producer, damn it, Jim, that's what you would have heard. This is from townhall.com, and I'm unsure if this was written by a gentleman named Mark Little. It says BLM targets its own children via gender confusion and sterilization. This guy writes, as a black lawyer, minister, and educational leader in L.A., I am appalled at the deception and psychological manipulation aimed at black families and children under the guise of equity with BLM. Now, I remember looking at the BLM website last year, and if I'm not mistaken, and please fill me in, sir, they were saying their goal was to eliminate the nuclear black family. Well, hell, any family.
Tip of the iceberg. Wait till you get the book. Tip of the iceberg. Tip of the iceberg.
But that's gone now. Isn't that amazing?
Yep, but that's okay. I saved all the pages.
Oh, well, I can't think of what it's called right now, but there's a website that you can go to that's like and I think it may be even called the Wayback Machine, where when people cover this kind of stuff, you can go back to a particular date and then search through their website, and you can find these things archived. That's why I love the internet. A lot of this stuff just never goes away.
It doesn't go away. Mm-hmm.
Then we were talking about insanity, and it stems here in the fetid petri dish called California. Always spell it with a K. Charles Love, I'd really enjoy your insight on this, because it falls into the category of what could possibly go wrong. This is from KTLA 5 in Los Angeles. California prisons begin moving hundreds of transgender women requesting transfer under a new law. So,
well, my first thought is hundreds?
Yeah.
Hundreds? Just in California and just in the prison system?
The demand, this is a quote, the demand has been high with 261 requests. This is weird. Under California Penal Code, 261 requests. 261 is the Penal Code section for rape. That's right, but we didn't see this coming. Charles Love, this will end up well, don't you think? Putting transgender individuals in with, well, what normal people would
what
call
we used to call
real women.
What we used to call women, right?
Imagine that. Will this go well, Charles Love? I don't see anything
for the transgender people they're transferring.
Yeah, and the people that call themselves and just want a nice warm spot at night, so to speak. Also, did you know, folks, that the Biden administration halts a Houston highway citing racial injustice because highways?
Yeah, highways. Everybody knows highways are racist. That's not even. Come on, you got to give me something interesting. Everybody knows highways are racist.
That's true. Here's another one: cop killer given a seat on governor-mandated police reform panel. No, come on. Why wouldn't you? And then, I think this is going to have to be the final story. And Charles, if you could weigh in on this. This is from the Los Angeles Times column. California rushed to vaccinate poor people, but what about transgender people? So
there is a big push for that. Like, it's a large percentage of the population. They got, ACLU tweeting it out nonstop. This Sunday on the show, I have a transgender woman. We're going through all transgender, talking about the issue and all that kind of stuff. What you think, what you don't think, and it's going to be an interesting thing. And one of the questions, and this is a realistic question. Again, I don't attack or pushback. What I say, but you're like 0.6% of the population. So why should the whole world move for you? And you wasn't in on that show. I can't believe you didn't bring this one up. New York Times. Should we block the sun? Has the time come to block the sun to artificially cool the planet? I think I win.
Okay, come on.
New York Times, should we block the sun? Scientists say the time has come to study it. The National Academy said the United States must study technologies that would artificially cool the planet. And scene.
Which is really funny because I just read an article yesterday saying that a coalition of scientists indicate that they believe we're entering a cooling phase for the Earth because solar flares from the sun are fewer than they used to be. I think that all falls under
Tales from the You Can Write This Shit department. Graciously presented by BZ here in the Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
Because, as we all know, you can't write that shit at all. So, Charles Love, thank you ever so kindly, sir, for staying up so late. Because I have 2 clocks in here. I have one on Pacific time and one on Eastern time. It's 9:59 on the left coast. It's 12:59 on the far east coast where you are. So thank you ever so kindly, Charles Love, for staying up so late. Folks, his book, Race Crazy, BLM 1619 and the Progressive Racism Movement, comes out September of this year, available for pre-order. I have done so. And if you want to hear more of Charles Love every Sunday, you can go to AM 560, The Answer for the Charles Love Show. It's in Chicago. Real terrestrial radio, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central. You should go there also. Charles Love.
Or they can go to my website, The Charles Love, and they can just listen to the podcast and find the old shows. I appreciate it. It's been
beautiful. Great. Beautiful. Excellent. Better yet. So, sir, I thank you for being here. Would you deign to come back?
I think I can make that happen.
Excellent. Or as they say in Spanish, excelente. So, thank you. Thank you for being... See, it did need interpretation, though. So thank you for being here, sir. Thank you kindly. God bless. Take care and be safe.
All right. Have a good one.
Folks, that was Charles Love. That was one of the greatest interviews. That's one of the most fun interviews I've done in a long time. I told Charles before he got here, I said, you're going to fall into the category of you're going to make an easy interview, because sometimes trying to talk to people and trying to extract information is like a root canal. Charles Love was the anti-root canal, most deaf. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk, Bobcat, Saloon radio show right here, live and direct on the SHR Media studio. And if you want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter at BZEP, BZEP, really active there. I've also got a blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, Shure and Electro Voice microphones, and Arrakis boards. Tiaras are by My Little Pony.
So will you please?
Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I will be consorting in less than an hour.
I won't be long.
Thanks to Charles Love for being here tonight. Thanks to you and you and you and you and you and you for listening live. Thanks for being in chat. Thanks for being in the SHR Media chat, Facebook chat, YouTube chat. Thanks also for listening in podcast. God bless the American trucker. He and she keep America moving now more than ever. I appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time out of your busy day or night to listen to me and to you. Have a great weekend. God bless. Take care. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night.
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.